this series, I'm unpacking 10 common accusations that blame wives whenever sex breaks down in marriage. Each claim exposes how the responsibility for sex gets shifted from the husband, who's the stronger spouse, onto the weaker one, making the wife the scapegoat while the real problem gets ignored. Hi there, my name's Lillian. Welcome to Shrewd Wife Life. On my channel, I talk about how to tell the difference between a husband who's wounded versus a man who's actually dangerous, but he's pretending he's merely dysfunctional. This series fits into that because these accusations are the very ones that help dangerous men hide while wives take the blame. Let's get started. If you're married to a wolf, I bet you've absorbed these accusations for years. From sermons, marriage seminars, counselors, books and blogs and podcasts. These accusations are the reason that you second-guess your discernment. You blame yourself for having a female body that responds to sin exactly the way God designed it to. If you look honestly at your own experience, you'll notice something that you haven't had words for yet. Even if you believe these accusations were true, instead of bringing life to you in your marriage, they've drained it by adding a lot of pressure from expectations. You've been trying to reconcile what your heart knows is wrong with what religion and tradition keep telling you is right. That war inside you is why you feel so worn down. It's also why your sense of self is worse now than when you first got married. In this part, we're going to be looking at the accusation that says men just need sex to feel respected. It sounds straightforward, and like most things with masculinity, it's linear. So that makes it believable. It even feels like it could be biological. But what it does is it takes one biological truth, one cultural lie, and one emotional consequence, and stitches them together into a kind of Frankenship logic instead of a one-flesh relationship. Here's how it works. On one end, there's a biological truth. Yes, men do think about sex more often. Their bodies are continually producing new sperm. That's what makes it straightforward and linear. It's simple physiology, wanting to reproduce. That's not a desire for relational connection. Then, on the other end, there's the cultural lie that says sex must be more important to men because they've got more testosterone and think about it more often. And finally, the emotional stitching that's used. It's the ideology that tells wives that a man's sense of respect depends on how much sex he gets. So what you end up with is a physical process in his body fused into a spiritual marriage doctrine that God never intended for his sons. This distortion, it's demonic because it reverses God's order and it makes the wife the source instead of the receiver. It turns masculinity into a hunger that's got to be fed instead of a source of power and strength that needs to be stewarded. It trains a man to measure his worth by being wanted for sex, and it turns the wife into the one who must supply that worth back to him. But the body never provides for the head. Jesus didn't model that, and Paul never taught it. That's entitlement masquerading like its natural biblical design, when everything that respect stands for gets minimized into that one single act called sex, and biology gets treated like it's authority, the marriage loses its heart. Biology is real, but it's not the authority. God's design tells biology where to serve, not the other way around. Because sex has now been taken out of the one flesh dimension where a man and a woman meet each other to create something new, and it's been dropped into the functional role of the wife, all that's left is for her body to validate a preset obligation. What this does is redefine sex as part of her role instead of a part of a relationship that they share. It stops being a creative process that's alive. Instead, they've turned it into another task for her to complete, another line or item on her Proverbs 31 to-do list. Once respect and sex get forced into one meaning, it no longer calls a man to rise up in masculine stewardship. It just feeds whatever appetite is speaking loudest to him. The red pill community calls it masculinity. The world calls it evolutionary biology. And the church, they call it leadership. Different words, same toxic outcome. It's entitlement in disguise that's been relabeled as respect. All the imagery Paul uses in Ephesians 5, it's not new. He's using the same picture of covenant that runs through the scriptures that he's been studying his whole life. In that picture, the man is the Rosh. He's been designated as the head who initiates provision. He's not the receiver. But when the head tries to receive the way the body does, the outcome is always consumption. His capacity, which is shaped by all his testosterone, is outward directed. It's meant to give, not pull in. The moment he treats his wife like she's the primary source, instead of receiving first from God, his actions are morphed into taking. But when the body receives from the head, she isn't taking, she's responding. Her capacity, which has been shaped by all her estrogen, is built to accept and adapt to what is good and to reject what is harmful. That's what Hina means in Ephesians 5:33. Respect is not a command to her. It's the response that's awakened inside her body when provision and care and cherishing and investment have already been initiated with love. A husband's role in marriage is to nourish. He provides and invests and covers. He doesn't consume or try to control her. A man flexes all the strength in his testosterone by what flows out of him, not by how much he can extract from his wife into himself. Paul's telling a husband that when he approaches his wife's body, he's approaching the image of his own soul, but in the form of flesh. Verse 28. She's not the dispenser of comfort or peace for him. She's the guf, the body. She's the visible reflection of whatever he has invested into her. The Hebrew word yada means to know. It's not a mechanical word, it's a relational knowing and intimate revelation. When a husband joins his wife, he's supposed to know her, like one who's mirroring the generosity of God back to him. This is the same kind of knowing that Peter's talking about in 1 Peter 3, verse 7. The Greek phrase is katagnosin. It means to live with her according to knowledge about her. It's the same idea as the Hebrew yada, not factual knowing, not sexual access, but relational revelation. A husband can only love his wife in this honest and authentic way when he approaches her with humility, not sexual appetite. But when you tell a wife you're emasculating your husband when you reject him sexually, God and his intentions are erased. You're telling her that her husband's manhood depends entirely on her compliance instead of his own obedience. Headship that makes demands is not headship. It's hunger that's being fed by control. Desire itself is not sin. That's part of how God made men. It becomes sacred as it's directed through stewardship. But when he uses his desire as a way to validate himself, he's no longer worshiping God with his desire. He's worshiping his own need. And when a husband worships at that altar, every time he has sex, he's defiling the marriage bed. Real masculinity isn't dominance, and it doesn't make demands. It doesn't ask, why won't she? It asks, what have I stopped giving that's made her body retreat? And that question in honest humility is where true, responsible headship begins. Thanks for listening until the end. It means a lot to me and the message I'm sharing with my sisters. If this content brought clarity to places inside you that once felt confused, just take a moment and breathe. Truth doesn't rush you. It simply invites you to see what's been in front of you the whole time. You don't have to fix anything in this moment, and you don't have to force anything either. Just pay attention to what rises and what doesn't feel heavy anymore. If this content helped bring that kind of clarity, go ahead and hit like and subscribe so other wives can hear it as well. Bye for now, and I'll see you in the next one.